guys, today we're back with our deck profile, and we're here with Kory again. He's going to bring us an update to his Psy Frame Deck, and he also got first place with this deck in our most recent local tournament.
Over at Lionheart.
Yep, let's get into the deck.
Alright, so, first of all, you run 3 of the deck's Searcher. Like all Psy Frame Gears, banishes himself at end phase. You get Special Summon a Driver, so you get him off the field before then, which the field spell helps with. But he's the only gear that does not negate, but in turn he just searches for any Psy Frame card in your deck. Level 1, so you usually go into Zeta, you can go into Ancient Fairy, stuff like that. It's just whatever you need for that moment. Next is Beta, the angry battle fader of the deck. The second level 1 of this deck, and you could run one less of these and throw in another drowning if you really wanted to, but I find it's better to have a card in hand than on field, so can't really get popped as easily. Next, you run 3 of Delta, the Spell Negator. In all honesty, this one and Gamma, in my opinion, are kind of on par with importance. Of course, Gamma is used in more decks because monster negating, but Delta comes in handy more often than I see Gamma being used, because a lot of people cycle through their spells constantly. Spells are what powers up everything up and gets your plays going, while the monsters do the same thing, but at the same time, I happen to use him just a little bit more, but doesn't matter anyways because I run 3 Gamma as well. Once again, he's a monster negator. This guy's price is spiked really hard recently. It's absolutely insane. I see why people like using it, but at the same time, stop using Psy Frames and other things. They're made to be used in their own archetype. Alright, next, I only run 2 Driver. You really only need the 2. There are some times where I would like to add the 3rd, but every time I do, I seem to draw into him, which is the exact opposite of what I want to be doing. That, and I run 3 Multi-Threader. I like it at 3. I would consider downing it to 2 for something else, but the blanket protection that you can do is really helpful. Plus it counts as a driver while in hand or in grave, so that's why I run only 2 of the driver and 3 of her. Like I said, you can cut her down. I just prefer her at 3 because of the Alpha combo to Black Rose your opponent. And if you don't have a Delta or something in your hand to save your field spell, she's always helpful for that. Next, I run 3 Cardcar D. You don't really play during your turn anyways. You could take out the 3rd Cardcar D for a max C. I've been kind of debating on that myself. But for now, you never really know how much you're going to draw off of max C. Well, this one you know for a fact you're going to go +1. It just ends your turn. And that's all for the monster lineup, to be honest. I try to keep it small. I don't run any kaijus or anything like that. But, so that's what I do for the monsters. And I'm dropping things. Alright, so next, I run 3 Psy Frame Circuits. You have to run the field spell. This card makes or breaks the entire deck. You don't have this, it really hurts. You want to get this as soon as possible. You can search it off of Alpha, you can search it off of Metaverse, you can search it, you can just draw into it, and you have enough drawing in here, you should be able to get to this real fast, and if you duality for it, you more often than not will be taking the field spell over something else, unless you really need a negate for whatever your opponent's doing. And I run the 3 duality because it doesn't really matter if you can't special summon to your turn. It doesn't hinder you as much as people say it does, because you're playing during your opponent's turn. That's Psy Frames, it's how they work. So the no special summon doesn't hurt. You can Pot of Duality, get a card you want. If you have a card in hand, you can go through that and then do whatever you need. Usually use him to grab the traps I want, and then go for my plays that way. And I run 2 Psychic Field Zones. I actually see some Psy Frame decks that don't run this, and I honestly look at them like they're crazy, because Psy Frames banish themselves. Your opponent wants you to banish them, but you have this in your hand. Okay, they're now in your banish zone. You put them back into your graveyard, and then get out a free Synchro, which you can use for whatever means you want. just to further your plays. Another one I see people sometimes not running their decks is Telekinetic Power Wheel. It's good for a wall if you really need it, but it also helps further your synchro plays, helps you synchro climb into other things. 2 seems to work. 1 would work too, but I don't see it enough when I put it down to 1. So, and it's one of the main combos to get into one of our bigger monsters in the extra deck. And last for the spells is 1 E-Telly. You need some proactive plays, otherwise you're just reacting to everything. And if you have a level 7 on field with an E-Telly in hand, you go into the level 7, bring out a level 1 from deck, go into Crystal Wing. Simple as that. Alright, that's it for the spells. Of course, I run 3 Psy Frame Overload. This is honestly like the best archetypal trap card I have ever seen. Once per turn, banish something. Sure, you gotta lose it from your hand, but combos off well with Psychic Field Zone if you play it correctly. And banishing your opponent's cards face down always hurts them. And the best part is, if it gets sent to the graveyard, you get free searches. If you have an Omega on the field, you can banish this from the grave. Next turn, during your opponent's standby phase, you get to put it back, and then you get to send it once more. So you're getting just constant searches off this, just as long as you can keep up an Omega. I run 2 Metaverse because it's Psy Frames. Your opponent wants to wants MST or Twin Twister this, activate, put the field spell on, or if your opponent activates something, you activate a Psy Framegear to negate it. So you could activate this Chainlink 3, put the field spell on the field first, bring out your monsters, and then the field spell can activate. It works too well. Works better than terraforming. Hence why I don't run any terraforming. And for the next card I got 2 Drowning Mirror Forces. You don't want your monsters on the board. Once you start building up a field, it doesn't matter, but early game, if you draw into this, set it, and your opponent doesn't blow it up, this card can honestly win you games. And then last for the traps, run 2 Psychic Overload. I used to run Reckless Greed, but not being able to draw for 2 turns hurt too much. That and this one actually lets you recycle your negates into the deck and then draw 2. So you're drawing 2 no matter what. It's a +1, plus you get to recycle your monsters that you want to reuse. Like, you want to reuse your Gammas, you want to reuse your Betas, you want to reuse your Deltas. Alright, this card is what works. Of course, drawing into this early game kind of hurts because you need to get cards in the graveyard first, but at the same time, the trade-offs are a little bit better than not being able to recycle your stuff. That, and when I was running Reckless Greed, I actually decked myself out more often than not. Alright, that's all for the main deck, and now for the extra deck. 1/1 Ancient Fairy Dragon. If you can special summon this, during your turn you can just blow up your own field spell, put another one into your hand, activate it, and you got yourself 1,000. Plus, if you have a level 1 in your hand, you won't be able to activate your battle phase, but you can bring out a level 1 gear, synchro summon into Crystal Wing, and now not only do you got an extra 1,000 life points, but you've also got a Crystal Wing on board, which is always a beautiful thing. Next, run 2 Black Rose Dragons, because nuking the entire board during your opponent's turn is always welcome in any deck. That, and if you combo it off with Alpha, your opponent summons something you don't like, special summon this, special summon out your Driver, search out your Multi-Threader, synchro summon with the field spell, go into Black Rose Dragon, and then nuke your opponent's entire board, ditch the Multi-Threader, and your field spell and maybe your Overload are safe. Unless you want to get rid of your Overload, then just leave it face down or whatnot, but yeah. That's why you run 2 of these guys. And people said that maybe I want to run a 3rd, but I really don't see a need for it, because if you get an Omega into the graveyard, you can just recycle it anyways, so you only really need 2. Next, I run 2 Zeta. I've seen people run 3, I've seen people run 1. 2 I feel is a happy medium, because sometimes you just need that second one, and going against XYZs, this card is beautiful. They detach for their effect, you just sit there, banish it with this, and the next turn they don't even get it, or when they summon it in the beginning, just summon, activate effect, banish. Now their XYZ monster has absolutely no materials. It's a beautiful thing. That and if you use what is it again? I can't believe I forgot my own card's name. Oh yeah, Field Zone with this, bring this out, and then use E-Tele to bring out a level 1, and then Synchro, and now you have a Zeta that you can now bring that level 1 you just special summoned into your hand, and put this right back in your deck. So, the card can combo off decently well, and I like it at 2. Alright, next is 1 Crystal Wing. It's Crystal Wing. Free negates, which this deck is negate.deck, dick.deck, handtrap.deck, whatever you want to call it. But having an extra negate for level 5 or higher is always a fun little thing to do.
Clear Wing.
Oh, I said Crystal. Clear Wing. Clear Wing. And then last of the level 7s is I run a Yazi, which it can't be targeted by your opponent's card effects. It removes itself from the board and one other card from your opponent's frickin' field. So it's got destruction. And it gets rid of itself. It's Psy Frames. You don't like monsters on your board unless you're going for game. Next is Scrap Dragon. Same exact reason as Yazi, except he can be targeted. That's pretty much it. And the heart and soul of this deck, 3 Omega. Why wouldn't you run 3? You get 3 of these things out, you start looping them, you can go absolutely insane with these things. Your opponent will hate you for playing this card alone. Everybody likes to play this card outside of Psy Frames. I don't blame them. But now imagine it inside of its own archetype. You get numerous searches off the trap. You can keep getting rid of your opponent's hand. And it's a 2800 beater that with the field spell up, you can just keep attacking over. Plus, it's incredibly easy to get off the field zone. I run 1 Crystal Wing because this card, a lot of decks have a lot of trouble trying to get rid of Crystal Wing. It's a free monster negate, it can attack over anything level 5 or higher. It's just a beautiful card altogether, and with this deck, it's surprisingly easy to make. And the last of the level 8s is I run 1 Scarlight, mainly for the small little engine in here that I don't really see any other Psy Frame player run, is you go into this. Say you have Multi-Threader engraved plus a level 1 and a level 2. You go into this with, you activate Telekinetic Power well. You bring out the level 2 and the level 1, pay 900 life points. Multi-Threader is engraved, so it can now special summon itself. Use the 2 and the Multi-Threader, go into him, and then use him and the level 1 to go into Abyss. Abyss will now bring back any of your tuners every time he does battle damage, which, paired with the trap, means you got a free banish every turn, plus a free negate of any face-up card on the field. So, why wouldn't you? That's just my main question here. Alright. And then for the last one, I run 1 Overmind Archfiend. I run this one. You can't really synchro it out properly in this deck, but that's why you run Field Zone in this deck, because if you have a level 1 in your banish zone and you had to banish Omega for whatever reason, and you don't want them to have their card back, or you banish it off the trap, you can then play Field Zone, bring him out in defense, and if you want, you can re-banish the Omega, put it in so that when this guy dies, he's a floater. Or you can banish other things if you know he's going to stay on field long enough so that when he does die, you can just bring it all out. You have a field spell on board. You can synchro after that, bring something else out. He's beautiful. And if your opponent Ghost Reapers you, sends all of your Omegas to the grave, to the banish zone, all you gotta do is get a level 1 tuner in the grave plus a field zone in hand, and you can bring him out quite easily and start recycling all of your Omegas. Anyways, guys, that's it for the deck profile. I am doing pretty good. I'm trying to figure out what else I can add in here besides Foolish Burial of Goods, which I'm hoping to get soon. But other than that, mod it however you feel like it. Each deck's your own, play it how you want, and have a good day.